how do you handle booking? Because it's something that every comic / producer or just producer has to deal with.
Yeah, every producer for sure. Yeah, most comics live their whole life never having to book, and good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
During the pandemic, I had gone so long without booking any shows, like, being the booker for a show, so to speak.
Sure.
And I loved it. I loved
not doing it. Right.
Yeah.
Sure. It is. Yeah. So coming up, the 8 years in Phoenix helped me to understand how to book a show, which is its own art form, right? Like you want to do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, all the different energy. And the best thing that I learned there was also how to tell people no, because I was booking some of the better shows, right? Like I was proud to have people on the show, the Genuine show. Like I always thought it was only like 8-minute sets, but like in a scene that's developing, a lot of people can't do 8. So
I mean,
yeah. Shoot, in a developed scene, a lot of people can't do 8, right? So I always kind of taught or treated that show as like me anointing somebody, which was kind of an arrogant way to look at it. But like, if you're the dude on a scene, like people do look up to you in a way. Like,
yeah.
Don't be not aware of that.
What you're like de facto passing them.
In a way, right? Like it's fucking bar show, right? But like it was a good ass bar show. I brought out 30, 40 people that you didn't hustle, and don't embarrass me. I put you on the show. So, but the biggest thing I learned from doing that was like how to tell people no when they hit you up, and
how do you tell people no? Because that's the hardest, especially, I'm sure maybe in Phoenix is different, but saying no in LA is the hardest thing to do because it's like so personal.
It's so personal. I think it's, so in Phoenix, what I would do, I would just tell people like, hey, I've seen you do a set before. We usually book people to do about 8 minutes. I've never seen you do 8 minutes. It was pretty blunt. I'm pretty blunt sometimes, but I also am unapologetic in that too. I don't really care. I do think, to your point though, that's easier to do in that scene where I had that, I was at that level. Whereas in this scene, you could piss the wrong person off, or just not the wrong person off, but people are just in their fucking feelings out here.
Yeah, but it's also like there's a it's like a dynamic scene here where like you could be saying no to somebody for comedic reasons who has a lot of power in other things in LA.
Right.
So there's layers. I'm sure in Phoenix you're saying no to a comic.
But what's the backlash?
There's no backlash. Yeah. They don't have any other power in entertainment. Right. And that's it.
But what I would do, so the verbiage I would just tell people is like, for Genuine is I'll reach out to you. That's what I would always say is don't hit me up. People knew not to hit me up about it. They might, but it would be like, I'll reach out to you if I'm ever going to book you. So just know that. And that kind of set the tone for what our DMs would look like, right?
Right.
It's like, remember when I told you I'd reach out to you? But keep doing your thing. I see you out here, blah, blah, blah. Now here
that's good. I think that's nice and polite.
Yeah. And it's also like, it lets them know how I book, right?
Right.
I'll reach out to you. People that are on the show, I've reached out to. I'm aware of what's going on in the scene. Out here, I do the same thing. I haven't ever had to have that conversation as much. The nice thing with Don't Tell is sometimes I can just do a push off pretty easily because I do want to book a lot of these people. But right now, there's people that I definitely want to, that haven't been doing shit. For example, somebody's hitting me up out of town. I've told that person straight up, I said, I appreciate that you're coming to town right now. We haven't had comedy here in a year, and I'm prioritizing Los Angeles comedians.
Right. That's a good answer too.
That's a good answer. So that's the out of town push off. But I'll reach out to you for booking stuff is the other one too, because I know enough good comics like that lineup last night, right? Like in the lineup that I've had the past couple weeks, like I'm super proud of, and I would show those to anybody and be like, I think I know what I'm fucking doing.
Right.
Like, so
yeah.
But you do have to just,
in a way, it's like showing what you're doing more than just booking the top 10 people on Netflix.
Dude, I'm not booking anybody with credits.
But almost if you took a person off the street and said, go find me 10 of the best comics in the world, they could, if they'd never seen comedy, they could just go to Netflix and pick 10, and they'd probably get most of them right.
Yeah. Yeah, so there is like, yeah, and I also understand who to trust with my recommendations right now too. Like I could just be the dude that's like, hey, who's funny to anybody?
Yeah.
But you know as much as I do, like there's only certain people I'll take a recommendation from, and there's certain people that I'll never take a recommendation from because the one time I took a recommendation from them.
Right. But it's also like there's like layers of currency in this town, and sometimes people use recommending them to your show as an in with them,
sure,
to get something.
I've gotten that, and it hasn't backfired on me because the person was also somebody I knew and trusted.
Yeah.
But I know what you're talking about, and that is, yeah, it's navigating all the things. I think coming up in the smaller scene, I saw some of the tricks and stuff like that, and observe them, and also being in Phoenix, you do get the outside, you get the LA, New York, how they approach I should be on the show shit. So yeah, with it, I'm sure there's people out there that hate me because I am not as responsive as they want me to be right now.
I don't think you can be hated for no response though.
I've done some no responses.
I think no response is kind of like, it's mysterious.
Yeah,
I think you can be hated for a no though.
Yes, that's why. But I'm always super conscious of how to do the no. To your point, I think direct communication is important, and I think with the out of town stuff, I do think that that's fair for me to say too. Like, you're in LA. Like, I feel like we should prioritize. We haven't fucking had comedy here, and most of these people that I'm booking haven't done shit in like 12 months.
Yeah.
And they should be doing more shit. These are very talented people. So
I felt that way internally because like normally I go to New York every year for a couple weeks to do shows, and like I'm like, am I really gonna hit up people in a city that like they haven't even had spots yet? I'm like, and I was just like, I started to have that feeling internally.
Yeah, but you're self-aware, and that's also probably why you're going to be a good booker and a good comic, right? Like moving forward, and a good show producer, because self-awareness is like one of the most important traits in this business that we're going into.
Yet all this unself-aware people end up here.
Dude, it is insane.